2 minutes late.
Thank you. Beseder, Shalom Aleichem to everybody. Welcome. And Be'ezras Hashem, let's just start off with just setting our intention. And the way we can start Kapshutai to do that is just by taking a couple of breaths and just look around. Das Tachton Chitzoni, which we'll learn about. Das Tachton Chitzoni is the spatial awareness, where I am within this space. Das Tachton Chitzoni, something which is incredibly important. And then Das Tachton Pnimi is just you can now refocus your gaze inside, just to be present, whatever that means to you. This is an unfolding story. So hopefully, Be'ezras Hashem, it will become clear if we do our job, if I do my job correctly. I just want to start off as well, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach, with the help of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, B'siyata D'Shmaya. The shir could be, number one, dedicated for the person who sponsored the shir, for the organization Gamzuli, which is a shidduch platform. And somehow, they told me to say there'll be links. There'll be links somewhere, I don't know, okay. Number two is Refuah Shlema for Yehuda Shoshana Esther Bas Braina Vala. And number three as well, a Melitz Yasrar for the Bibas family. Tachlis, one thing that I was thinking about is over the last few weeks already, Kfir is a lion cub. Kfir is a lion cub, and there's a bracha, Be'ezras Hashem, we should awaken the lion cub within us. Ariel is as well a lion, and Mrs. Shiri is song. So I'm hoping they could be Melitz Yashar, and as well that we can waken within us, b'schus them, and b'schus all of the mamash, all of the hostages, in the merit of all of the hostages, the shir should help somehow. Let Hashem do what Hashem does, and whether we understand, whether we don't understand, and all those people that have graduated from this world in this tekufa, Be'ezras Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you see, you hear us, no? And mamash, we should wake up the lion within. We should wake up the lion within and learn, Be'ezras Hashem, to mevatel ourselves, learn how to have the healthy ego and the healthy kedusha. And with the waking up of the lions from the different stages, Chabad Chagat Nehim, we can come to the Chabad, we can come to the Neshama, the Chayin Yechida, we can come to the Shir, Be'ezras Hashem, awakening the lion cub and then the lion and the song. We could sing our song. And as well, Be'ezras Hashem, with the help of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, may the Zayda, may the family's great-great-great-grandfather, Rabbi Yehuda Bibas, may he, Be'ezras Hashem, guide and protect them and look after them and comfort them. And all of us. He was a big tzaddik. He was one of the big tzaddikim. Who? Rabbi Yehuda Bibas. So, hoping, and all together. Good morning, Shalom Aleichem. Yeah, all together, Be'ezras Hashem. And as well, just to add, all of us, may the Lamdei Torah be conscious in understanding how choshev their avodah is. May the soldiers have strength, have clarity, and may they understand how important their avodah is. And may the civilians living here in Eretz Yisrael, may we understand how important our avodah is as well. I was speaking to a couple of people. I think just to acknowledge the fact that we are here living in Eretz Yisrael is pelaplayim. It's pelaplayim. If somebody would ask if we needed to do something, do we need to do something? The fact that we are here, living here, is mamash it. It's mamash it. Even if we didn't need to do anything else, if we couldn't do anything else, just to be here, present in Eretz Yisrael is fantastic. To come and visit Eretz Yisrael is fantastic. Don't never ever belittle normality. Never ever belittle normality. Shouldn't belittle normality. Normality is lived properly, is Kodesh Kedoshim. So Be'ezras Hashem, we'll see how we go forward. Okay. So last week, as I mentioned the introduction last week, just because of everything that was going on with Am Yisrael, it's what was percolating in my heart and mind. And the wanting is to start this kuntrus, and this kuntrus belongs to something a little bit bigger, and it's an unfolding journey. It's really the first time I'm sharing these writings the way I'm sharing these writings, for very particular reasons. We're not going to go fully into it now, but just to understand, for me in my little Daladamos, in my little Balgaiva world, Mamish, I don't normally do what we're doing here the way we're doing it. And a reason why is because my teachers, the Biala Rebbe, and several other tzaddikim, Talmidei Chachamim, they said you have to start doing this. And I think it's important. Because what we have to offer, whether we want to call it a path, whether we want to call it in Rosh Kodesh a derech of avodah, whether we want to call it a method, we have a very beautiful method that's been handed down from generation to generation to allow us, to gift us, to grow, to change, to develop, to become something more. And as I said last week, I want to make this really clear. I want to make this very, very clear. There's something called conscious competency and there's something called unconscious competency. And for God's sakes, push. Ask questions, push in a healthy way. I will tell you when I feel it's not nogea. I will say it's not nogea for right now. It's not for now, this question. But push. Why? Because the point is, it's not about me standing up here and talking. I know I've got a big mouth. I think you know that as well. I can talk. The point is conscious competency. If this is emes, if this is true, which again, you will judge for yourself. You will judge. I do this. I think it's wild stuff. I'm so thankful to the Pilzno Shul, to Rabbi Singer. I'm so thankful to Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Shapira, to the Kretschner Rebbe. I'm so thankful to my teachers, Biala Rebbe included as well, that they laid out a conscious competency. They laid out a conscious competency, as we defined last week, the ability to have a system to experience and then to share that experience. But again, the only way you know it's true is if you use it in your life. Kapshutai. Like conscious competency. And how well do you know this will be depending on how well you can communicate it to others. And this is something very important, and it's a journey, it's an unfolding journey, and there's times where I will not speak clearly. So there are people here sprinkled around here that's an honor that they're here. I've got people, I won't say their names, I won't say one of their names, because if I say one of the names, she'll smack me. But I've got people here, I don't even know why they're here, but they're here. And we've, Baruch Hashem, gone through this material time and time again. So if I say something that's not so clear, tell me. I can't say everything so clearly. I'd love to, but it's not how it works. I'll do my best. And together, you have your own language. We call it simplifying, codifying, and we've got then the ability of absorbing the information in your way. Simplifying is taking high ideas and bringing it down in a language that I myself can understand it. Then it's having the ability to codify, giving it that language to communicate it to myself and to communicate it to others. And then you've got the absorption of that. A dear friend of mine, he says multiplying. Simplifying, codifying and multiplying to then live that in your life. Living it in your life. And I believe that these teachings that I received and the other chevra that received these teachings are very much what we need today. And again, who's going to judge it? You're going to judge it. I'm going to talk, then we will do our sharing, and you will judge it. You will judge it, and you will take it and live it. Kapshutai. We'll have hopefully something to think about while we are here, and then you'll go live it and live better, live more wholesomely, to live healthy, to live happy, to live holy. Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. And like we mentioned last week, based on Tehillim, there's many parsas. A parsa is a boundary. It's a separation. We have within us many separations within ourselves, the different parts of ourselves. Multi-generational separations as well. We have our cultural separations. It goes on and on. And what we are wanting is to have the availability, to have the intellect, to have the know-how, how we could maybe melt away, like we said in Tehillim, our ability to melt away those unhealthy boundaries and our ability to implement healthy boundaries. So important. So important. And there's been an erosion on that which holds us together. There's been an erosion on the Midas Hadin, on the Gevurah. Gevurah and Midas Hadin has got a bad rap today. It has a bad rap today. But what we will come to see, and maybe we'll see if it's another document eventually maybe we'll send out, is that our saving grace today, who's the Av that ushers in Moshiach? Yitzchak. Yitzchak is Midas Hadin. What midah do we need to articulate today? Found throughout all the Sfarim, whether it's the Vilna Gaon, whether it's the Ramchal, whether it's the Baal Shem Tov, wherever you look, Sifrei Kabbalah in the Arizal, the midah that we really have to articulate today is the Midas Hadas, which hopefully we will explore. We'll see. We will explore. But the Midas Hadas is an Akudah of Gevura. It's an Akudah of Gevura. It's pulling back. It's separating, distinguishing. It's connection as well. But it's the Midah of Gevura. And that's the Bechina of Das. And hopefully what we will learn to do here is speak out some interesting ideas maybe. And then from those interesting ideas, have the ability, the availability to actually speak about it a little bit. As last week I asked you to share at the end, and I'm going to ask you to do that again. And then for you to take these words, to process them, and then to absorb them. And what would be nice, what would be very nice, is even if you don't have to work so hard to make changes. We're not here to add in more. Sometimes a person goes and there's a shit, and you have to do more, you have to do more, you have to do this meditation, and you have to do this avodah, and this, and this, and that, and that. I'll try my best that you won't find that here. We're already overwhelmed. We don't need to necessarily do more. I don't think it's a matter of people doing less from the perspective of how busy they are. People are busy. We're busy, running here and there. But the Nakuda Pnimi is that maybe, just maybe, and again, you will judge through listening and through assessing what we are sharing here and hearing the message time and time and time again, even without doing anything. Don't be pleasantly surprised that you notice changes. Just by turning up, just by listening to a certain language. Don't be pleasantly surprised if you catch yourself that, oh wow, look at that. Wow. Because these wisdom teachings, as we will go into, are natural wisdom teachings. What does that mean? On a certain respect, my dear friends, we've been educated out of being a Tzelem Elokim. We've been educated out of being a proper, healthy Tzelem Elokim, a proper, healthy human being. A Tzelem Elokim, in one language, in one definition, a Tzelem Elokim is an integrated, wholesome human being. A Tzelem Elokim is a being that doesn't just have a cerebral word tagged to the language of what should be their experience, like a neshama or a nefesh or a ruach. It's something actually which is an experience, and we want to be guided back to that experience of what the neshama, ruach and nefesh is, what the chaya and yechida is, again, in an experience. And from having that, you look, for example, at the works of Nefesh HaChaim. That was one of the goals of Nefesh HaChaim. If anybody knows the history of the Nefesh HaChaim, it was learned as chaburas. And then these teachings were put together. We have a tradition, one of my teachers who was a student of a student of a student of a student of people who sat in those chaburas with Reb Chaim Volozhiner, they spoke out cerebrally. They spoke out these teachings that we are speaking out. So there was a word, but that word was not just a word, nice religious idea, a neshama, a soul. It was actually a signpost, a communal language that people understood, neshama, ruach, and nefesh, and there was a definition, there was an experience that came with each of these soul parts. Now, in this little booklet, we're not going into that fully because we don't need to, and I'll explain that in a minute what this booklet is. But the point that we want to articulate and understand is that we have such a sophisticated, wonderful approach to the human experience. We really do. Baruch Hashem, working on a paper right now, which is a paper from many, many, many years ago. I think many years ago. What year is it? 2005. And it breaks down the way Torah uses at least the names of the different soul parts. So, for example, you have in Tanakh, you have in Tosefta, you have in Mishnah, Bavli, Yerushalmi, Midrashim, all of the languages that Chazal use, and languages of, for example, Chayin Yechida that the Torah of Shas does not necessarily use. We have one medrash that speaks about it and particular reasons why, and then different layers and combinations. Question is, were Chazal just throwing this in Stamazoi, or was there a background expectation that we knew what the experience was, and that's why they're using that particular soul part? As we mentioned last week, when we understand there's a background in knowing how we work, there's an architecture to the soul, there's a mechanism to the way we work. So when we understand that, we can understand Torahs like Rabbi Nachman, where Rabbi Nachman, as we mentioned last week in Likutei Maran in the second part, Yud, shares with us that if a person lacks Yishuv Hadas, they lack a connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that then begs the question, well, what is Yishuv Hadas? Menuchas HaNefesh, Nachas Ruach, Choyle Nefesh. Did we ever stop to think about how, that's interesting, we're using particular words time and time and time again. Cheshbon ha-nefesh. Well, what's the nefesh? What is this stuff? What's the ruach? What is that? So Chazal had an expectation that there was a communal definition of how we worked, more than less. Whether everybody understood it, I don't believe everyone understood it, but there was a communal language and a communal understanding of how we worked. I remember Reb Sroy de Blitzk used to say, what was the Torah learned before the Torah was given? Sefer Yetzirah. It was very common to people. They worked as farmers. Whether it was consciously available to them in describing or not, but they were so sensitive to weather patterns, they were sensitive to clouds, they were so sensitive to bugs. Chazal presents to us this marvelous expression where you have this deep integration with Teva. The stars, they knew where they were. They'll just look up at the stars and they would see what constellation is happening right now in real time. And we've lost that. We've become separated from that, and it's hurting us. It's hurting us. Once upon a time, people went to sleep when it was dark. Wow, that's crazy stuff. They went to bed at the beginning part of the night, typically, and then they got up early, but they went to bed when it was dark. Our circadian rhythm is not necessarily functioning as it should. And because of that, our whole biology, the hormones in our body are off kilter. So what we want to do is become reacquainted to how we work, at least internally. And to be reacquainted to the integration that we should be living with. And lo and behold, again, you will judge. I try to do this. I mess up. Don't think I'm perfect at it. I mess up. That's why I need all my friends around me to help uplift me. But the more we experience an integration, lo and behold, we live better. We live better. We love better. We feel more fulfilled. The small little things excite us. Small little things excite us. You know, it could be that you're cleaning your teeth and some of the water spritz on your face. You laugh because the nakuda is, the more conscious you become, everything becomes like funnier most of the time. Becomes funnier. You can hold the dismay, you can hold the discomfort in a more graceful way. And it's something which is marvelous, and it's something which I think is needed for today. And again, I'm saying I think it's needed, I believe it is, but I can't judge that. You can judge that. Each of you as an individual, you can judge that. And Be'ezras Hashem, we'll see where we go. So you've got Baruch Hashem, you've got, if you would like, a kuntrus. They're on the stenders over here, and there's a few over here. And I think you've got the most updated version. I'm missing the poem at the back. I've got a slightly older version, but we'll work it out in the coming weeks. So what we'll do, we'll first speak about this. We'll first speak about this, and then we will start it. So many years ago, I was encouraged to write. My teachers encouraged me to journal and to write. So already, I would say from the Biala Rebbe was the first person who really encouraged me to start a diary. I can't read pretty much anything I wrote in that diary back, but I remember enjoy writing. And then as time went on, things improved and I became a little bit more sophisticated in writing. The sophistication in writing involved my dear parents. It's like, oh, please, can you write this down for me? And Baruch Hashem, they wrote for me as well, and I wrote. And when I met certain teachers, whether it was, for example, Reb Chuna Halpern, he said, by the tzaddikim, they'll makpid to journal, they'll makpid to write. And I said to Reb Chuna Halpern, Radha Mishla Rebbe in London, did you write? And he says, I didn't write like my personal diaries all the way through my life, but I wrote all my shtiklach Torah, the thoughts that were going on about different sugiyas. When Baruch Hashem, when I was by Reb Ephraim Greenblatt, Zichron Livracha as well, another person, write, journal, write. Biala Rebbe, make sure you write, make sure you journal. And by the tzaddikim, there are a number of tzaddikim, you see left, right and center, that they speak about the art of journaling, the importance of journaling. And it's something that could be really therapeutic. It could be something which is so brilliant when you've been working on something and then you reflect back to seeing how much you've grown. It's really profound, whether you're speaking about Rav Kook, whether you're speaking about the Piasetzner Rebbe, and the list goes on. In one of the Kontresim about memory, I think I've got 60 Makoros, spanning back from Shas all the way, from Psukim all the way, about this Nakuda of journaling and Nakuda of writing. So I write, I journaled, and over time, I think some of you may know, right now in this Gilgul I have dyslexia. Whether it'll ever change, when the new Moshiach, when the new Torah is revealed, just as we know all our healings occurred when the Torah was given, so wow, I'll look at life without dyslexia, we'll see what happens. You know, ADHD, no ADHD, how all those ADHD people are going to function? What's going to happen? Neurosis, don't have neurosis anymore. What am I going to crunch about? Whatever it may be. So the point is that I couldn't read everything back. I've got all of these diaries, I couldn't read everything back. But the kindness of certain people, they sat with me, whether friends, they sat with me, and there's a lot of writings which, some of them are, the best writings are like nonsense and narishkeit, and then there are certain more superficial level writings like this. So what is that? That was like a joke, by the way, but anyway, okay. I got it. I found it funny. So what happens is that I've got these giant journal entrances from really the big switch occurred when I met a certain group of teachers. And maybe we'll just share for a moment about that. In Yiddishkeit, as we mentioned last week, you have Reb Nechunya ben Akana. Reb Nechunya ben Akana, he came down from his experience. Rabbi Akiva, the Heichalai speak about this, and Tachlis is he brought down a new set of teachings after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. We had Torah Sheba'al Peh, and then we had this new set of teachings that was passed down from generation to generation. We now did not have Nevuah in a classical way, but we did have Torah Sheba'al Peh, Shas and Paiskim, and we had the world of Kabbalah, so to speak. And what will happen when Geula comes? So there is a tradition where we know that we're not going to have the texts that we need today, including the world of Kabbalah, because we'll have Nevuah. So there'll be the subjective experience. And then this goes back to conscious competency and unconscious competency. So the Nakuda is that throughout the generations, after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, there was this small group of tzaddikim. And in the Chabura, which was the preferred transmission of these wisdom teachings, in the Chaburas, the first Chabura was, for example, Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yeshua Kohen Gadol, you had Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. This was in a Chabura. And then from generation to generation, these wisdom teachings were passed down. Primarily, for some reason, they ended up in Europe. They ended up more in Europe than in the Edut HaMizrach, Sfad lands. They ended up more in Europe. And there's a whole reason maybe why. Could be because it was a nice hot weather, there was more food, there was like a healthier existence in the Sfad lands. There was more mental health decay in the Ashkenazi lands. General sweeping statement, not going into it now, but I'm respecting the fact it's a general sweeping statement. So the Nakuda is, they found their way to the Ashkenazi world. So you have the Balei Shem. And I have a list that goes all the way back, missing a few generations, but I have a list that was given to me by somebody who was part of this chabur, and he received it from his teacher. This particular line comes from Rav Avraham Yurovich, and who lived in Yerushalayim. And there's an unbroken chain. There are generations missing here and there, but it's pretty much whole. And what they passed down from generation to generation was a body of wisdom teachings, which we'll speak to in a moment. So what happened? You have people like the Maharal of Prague, the Kli Yakar, Tosfos Yom Tov. You have a number of individuals which are familiar sounding names to us, which were connected to this group that were labeled the Nistarim, the hidden ones. And their leader was called the Baal Shem. And you have Baal Shem Adam, Baal Shem Yoel, going all the way back. And what happens is there's an individual that's called Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov. He became actually the leader. He became initiated into this group, and he became a leader of the Baalei Shem, the Baal Shem Tov. And you should know as well that there's a tradition that the Gra learnt. He learned by the Nistarim as well. When he was in exile, part of the derech of the Nistarim was this exile process. When he was in exile, he learned by the Nistarim as well. And then there's, again, I've got written documents that speak about Rabbi Yisrael Salant and speak about Rav Zundel Salant, who they were and how they fit in. But Tachlis, what happens is that the derech of the Baal Shem Tov and the derech of the Gra and a few other derachim, they're all stemming from the same place. They had obviously major interpretational differences, but they're stemming from the same place. Or did they have major interpretational differences? That's for another discussion. But what we want to try and just share right now is that there's this unbroken chain from generation to generation. Baal Shem Tov, he saw things weren't going well, and he shared what became Chassidus. The Vilna Gaon shared a different expression of this. It came from not necessarily the same teachers, it came from the same group, a couple of different lines. And they shared different formalizations of their teachings. And Tachlis, from generation to generation, they were passed down. And when I was in Mir, I met a particular individual who was a grandson of the Pilzno of Rabbi Yosef Zinger. And he pushed me to meet his grandfather. And then there were several other mentors as well that Rabbi Singer encouraged me to meet and share. One of them was Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Shapira, who was a Nista. He was more of a hidden tzaddik. And he lived actually about 20 minutes from here in one of the Moshavim, came here after the Second World War. And then there were other tzaddikim as well who belonged to this group. Some people have heard of Reb Usha Freund, so he had these Masoras as well. And again, his articulation of these Masoras, slightly different. But there's lots of similarities, lots of overlaps and similarities. The Kenigs in Sfat had this Masora. And what you see, they did not necessarily share it explicitly. It wasn't necessarily to be shared explicitly. There were certain groups that they had, and there still are today, certain groups. There's a few different groups, Sfadim, Ashkenazim. One particular Rav I learned by was Yemenite, and he learned by Reb Shlomo Zvila. He died, like many Yemenites, at a very, very old age. So this Nakuda of Masora was passed down. Is the Masora the same Masora? I doubt it. I'm too much of I've got a very, as you know, I've got a skeptical side, and I've got a very rational, tachlis on the ground. Is it the same? I would never say it's the same as what was passed down from generation to generation. I believe deeply, especially by the Biala Rebbe, who heard all of these Torahs. The Biala Rebbe saw this. I don't put, again, I've got his brachas, his letter of brachas that I could share, but I didn't put it in here because I wasn't expecting to do this. I was told to do this, and I wasn't expecting to do this in this format. Usually the way that we learn this material is through chaburas. This is how this tradition was transmitted, through chaburas. What is a chabura? It's a small group of people that study together, that get to know each other very well. So we've got chaburas that have been going for over 20-something years. And part of the key feature of chabura is long-term, deep, intimate relationships that you really build. You are vulnerable. You get to know each other's flaws and still hold people. And there's some people for 16, 17 years we've been in touch. They know these teachings. There's Baruch Hashem, a couple of people here today, which is again a humbling experience that they're here. because they've heard this before. But the more that we listen to these teachings, the more that we absorb these teachings. So, very important. You'll hear the same thing from me. In these sessions, you'll hear the same thing from me. So prepare to get bored. It's not like chidushim. Really. It's not chidushim. So you won't be bored. Hopefully you won't be bored. Hopefully I'll be enough of an entertainer. I'll be enough of an entertainer that will have fun as well. But the point is, it's the same ideas. It's the same ideas again and again and again. And when we hear these ideas and we can absorb these ideas, and you notice for yourself, you walk outside, you notice for yourself. You may notice for even 30 seconds, a second, mamash, 1 second, and it's good enough. It's good enough. Maybe I can ask you, you notice when we're going through this material, what do you notice?
I notice my throughout the day, like I'll become aware of the actual thought processes that I'm having, and like just I'll be able to hone in on like the skills that we're mentioning. And
what does that do to your life? So you become more aware of what you are aware of. What's that do? Is it good for you?
It's amazing.
Why?
Gives me the opportunity to make conscious, to have conscious frameworks in the way that I want to think and the way that I want to look at things, and to, if I'm going through a funk, like I'll snap out of it. I'll be able to have the ability to consciously make an attempt at least to like.
So there's a consciousness that you experience, and then if you do find yourself in a place where you don't want to be, it's easier for you to snap out of it. Yeah. And that does what? That's good for your life.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, and that's really it. It's like, we can go home now. That's it. First stage, you second that. Yeah. First stage is what we call das tachtoin. Das tachtoin, it's called das tachtoin, chitzoni and pnimi. This is speaking more to das tachtoin, pnimi. But it mentions a little bit of das tachtoin, chitzoni. And it's very, very simple. So, again, Messiah passed down from generation to generation. Is it the way it was back by Reb Nechunya ben Akana? I so much doubt it. I very much doubt it. I think possibly we can actually give this across clearer today than ever before. I will tell you that for my teachers, it was for sure a wanting that the more people function from this state of consciousness and live with this greater integration, the better humanity is going to be. We're going to function differently. We're going to live better. Going to live more wholesomely. And again, who's going to judge it? You. You'll judge it. I'm just here. I'm a vehicle. I would love it if I don't even need to be here. Really. It's not about the I, it's about the us. It's not about the me, it's about the we. I would love it if I don't have to be here. But the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu set up Teva is in order to share these wisdom teachings, I need to be here. But that's the Metzias. The Metzias is, there's no gatekeeping. It's a matter of hearing, listening, absorbing, and questioning, struggling at times, like what is going on? It's a journey. Kapshuta, it's a journey, and we'll work together. So this particular kuntrus is from 2002, and the background of this kuntrus is 5762, 2002, and the background of this kuntrus is I was in London and I had been in touch with Rabbi Singer. I had a couple of phone calls with Rabbi Singer, and I think I was on my way back from America. And I stopped off in London. I lived in London. So I came back from America, I was in London, and these were my first really, I would say, it was my first real internal conversation with myself. I've got notes. Before this, I have notes. From when I started to speak to Rabbi Singh, I have other notes, but they're like bits and pieces. This journal entrance was a time period where what they had been speaking about started to really hit me. They really started to hit me in a way that I sat and I wrote this in a couple of hours. It's been edited, understand it's been edited, and it's been upgraded for the sake of communication. And the hope is again, through my own experience of this wisdom, number one, the me back then is a different me that is today. So I always find this fascinating. And number two, it's a good form of communication. So this, even though it says Yoshua Gerzi is a different author. Yoshua Gerzi is a different author. So I wrote this, and that was a Yoshua Gerzi back then, and I'm reflecting back at this now. So usually, as I said, in Chabura, we go through writings, but we speak about this more outside. And the goal is to read through it, we'll talk about it, we'll do bit by bit. I'm not in a rush. This is a very important nakuda here. I'm not in a rush. There's no rush. Sometimes, in education, there's a syllabus you have to follow and you have to finish it by a certain time. That's not what this is. That's not what this is as well, at all. It's a process, and together. Kapshutai. So before I start, just any questions before I start with what we've said so far? Okay. Just to end off, yes.
What's a method for when we hear this information and we want to question it? How do we?
Thank you. Okay, let's. If you have questions, what do you do? So I think we can at the end of a paragraph. The paragraphs aren't too long. Have a pencil and paper. Write down your questions. You've got the booklet. You could write down your questions. Have something you can code that with, and maybe at the end of a chapter. We can then take questions. We'll see what happens. I think, again, in this sort of group setting, we have to judge it. But I think maybe at the end of a chapter, we could take questions if we get there. So write down your questions. That's what I
really meant, well, thank you for that answer. I meant throughout the day, when we're challenging it.
Oh, throughout the day, not in here. So you...
If we don't have the skill, if I don't have the skill,
just be... I would say if you can catch yourself and be aware, just be aware. But again, the Nakuda is, I believe quite quickly, through going through this text, there's a shift that's made. You realize, oh, look at that, I'm relating to a thought. And that thought is aggressive. Okay, could be aggressive. And the natural consequence is through das and becoming more aware, the healing process that's natural. You don't have to try to heal. You really don't. There's not much effort that needs to be put in place, because the more that you get how we work fundamentally, there's a natural healing process that takes place. And obviously we are just, like if there's severe mental health issues, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, our normative approach to living. Anything which is considered normal. So if a person has ADHD, okay, we have to take that into consideration. It may be a little bit more tricky. If a person has other issues, okay, a little bit more tricky. But normatively, you can experience some sort of shift and change just through being aware. Language of the Baal Shem Tov, Hachnan Havdalah. And Ashkacha Pratis as well. That's what Hashem wants from you in that moment. So does that talk to what you were saying a little bit more?
Yeah, I was expecting an answer of how to challenge it, but what I'm hearing is that just practice it and then figure it out.
Yeah, listening, I wouldn't even say there's anything to practice. The less that we could do, the better.
How do we know? Maybe it's just going to work and it'll be good, but maybe it's really not true.
Maybe. And that's okay as well. Again, it's a journey. Joe, I put my hands up. It's a journey. Yeah, and we'll talk more. Yes?
Is it a part of dysfunction that we're not living, say, in nature? You're speaking about the bugs and the stars, the dirt.
We've been educated out of it.
What's like that we that are living in, we're living in towns and cities.
Not just towns and cities. We've been educated out of what it is to be a Tzelem Elokim. If you're not educated in what it is to be a Tzelem Elokim, you by definition are educated out of it. And we, because of exile and because of everything that we've gone through, we've been educated out of what it is to be a Tzelem Elokim, and we need and we will be educated back into what it is to be a Tzelem Elokim.
Nature, what you were doing, elements in nature you mentioned. How does that fit into being Tzelem Elokim?
Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a world that nature, Teva, is Elokim. It's a part of it. If we're not connecting and understanding nature, we've lost a part of ourselves. There's a repetitive pattern and theme throughout Sifrei Kabbalah and through Shas and Poskim. And that repetitive theme includes understanding the structure of the seasons. We have like Shalosh Regalim, all of them have deep connections to the seasons. If we are not in touch with the seasons, Mashiv Aroch Mored Agashim, if we're not in touch with the seasons, we're not in touch with part of ourselves. Ourselves. So, okay. Yes?
Mention the line very briefly, the less we do, the better. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit?
So, the less we do, the better. I think it will become more apparent. I'm hoping it will become more apparent. But I think sometimes we get in the way. We get in the way. We get in the way of our own mental health. We get in the way of our own intuition. We get in the way. And what we can say is, as we journey in this, maybe, just maybe, we will come to realize the more I can let go, and the more I can implement good teachings and good, behaviors, practices, and whatnot, the more I achieve an alignment, the better it is for us. Again, you'll judge that. So the more that we can, on a certain respect, let go and become grounded, our incarnation is our curriculum. If we are living from a place of centeredness, the more we are integrated, it seems to be we function better. And I say again, it seems to be, because I don't know, it just seems to be. I'm not gonna make equations. You know me in equations. I'm no good at mathematics. There's no equations. My excuse. But the nakuda is, the more I'm centered, and the more that there is caring, sharing, supporting, and encouraging of one another, and we're living for something better, seems to be we live better, we love better, everything is much better in our lives. What gets in the way? The three friends, cynicism, skepticism, criticism, they get in the way. The unhealthy side of that, they hold us back from ourselves and living well. We just want to know how we work, and through knowing how we work, maybe there's a probability that we live better. That's it. Very gentle. Does that speak to your question? Yeah? Yes?
I just wanted to share that the gentleman before who asked the question about questions, so I have my experience and you just described it, and I wanted to just share that sometimes when you have a question about something, just simply holding the question and being available for an answer to come is possible, and I feel like that's what you just described.
Wonderful. Yeah. Sometimes just being available to hold the question is enough at times, and insight can come. Thank you. Okay, so let's begin. I just want to add one more nakuda, is that, as I said, by the Baal Shem Tov, by the Gra, by the Ramchal had this derech as well. He learnt it in Amsterdam. The Masorah that we have is he learnt it in Amsterdam. And then you have other tzaddikim as well. As we said, Rav Usha Freund, Rav Ashlag, and you'll see the same repetitive theme. Anybody who had the Masorah from the Nistarim, you see if they had writings, in their writings, the same repetitive theme. Rabbi Nachman. So it will become more apparent. Some of you have seen, we've got little contrasim that take these teachings and then share these teachings as a framework for learning, whether Pia Setzner, who had the Masorah, Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Shapir was a student of the Pia Setzner. So you see clearly, if you understand the structure, how to pump that structure back into the Sfarim HaKadoshim as well. And just to add that this kuntrus, there's no Makoros. There's no Makoros. And one reason why there's no Makoros is because sometimes we can get lost in the Makorot. Sometimes we can get lost in the cerebralville of the journey and connect less to the actual experience of it. So here, the Rabbi Singer suggested to use this text as an introduction, which doesn't have necessarily it doesn't have really Makoros, and it's from that we can then go into the Makoros in a healthier way. So okay. So Kisvei Rivash, the journey begins. Yoshua Gerzi. Let's go to page. I don't know what page it is. A new page 2 forward. You have that? It looks like that forward. Yeah? It's 37. So we'll see where we go. And we're reading from the beginning. And B'siyata D'Shmaya, it should go well. The Bekitzer Derech HaAvodah series is made up of writings and shirim delivered over a number of years in Eretz Yisrael and abroad. Their purpose to guide how we can live with deeper connection, commitment, and inspiration. And the confidence to better our lives, our families, our communities, and the human race and the planet. So I just want to start with an insight here. As an individual, as B'nai Yisrael, we want for the whole world to live well. We want for the whole world to live well. This is something really important. Not just for me, as an individual, all of us together. And not for now, but there's a whole kuntrus that goes into this, with lots of makars, over 100 and something makars. Just, mamash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants all of humanity to shine. And it's as each individual grows and becomes, so to speak, healthier and more centered and nicer, we spread that light. We spread that light, and we need it, and it's available to us, Be'ezras Hashem. It's available to us. I live better, you live better. You live better, I live better. My healing is your healing is my healing. A note to the reader, lovingly and respectfully. As you start this reading, please remember life is an unfolding journey. Your journey. It is to reflect as you discover and grow. May you test what's written here in your own life, allowing your own soul wisdom to guide you in healthy ways. And health, what's that word? In healthful ways. May we listen to life's lessons. May we learn from the people we admire and respect. May we become beings of greater service in the ways of love, respect, strength, and compassion. This is a key principle as well. Healing births your ability to become a being more of service. And really one of the deep nakudas, and again, we're not going into it now, we'll find this in other texts, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be of service. And the closest similarity between Ein Sof, between the Borei Olam, between Hashem and us, the closest way we could be similar is by being of service. Chazal tell us in Huriyos and other places, the more that we could be of service, the more similar we are to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the biggest servant. The king is the servant is the king. The queen is the servant is the queen. Kapshutai, and we want that deeply. And we will go more into that. Okay. May the ones who have graduated from our world be remembered and have an aliyah. In the memory of Mr. Binyamin Mer Eli, Rabbi Yaela Yafa Tuch, Mr. Adam Nathan, Mr. Yosef Newman, and Mr. Albert Allen. So Binyamin Mer ben Levi David, Yaela Yafa Bas Yitzchak Dov and Naomi, Reb Avram ben Yosef, Reb Yosef Rafael ben Chaim, Reb Avram ben Salcha. Okay. Tov. Yeah, I know. You're right. It probably stay the same because I like it. So, okay. Be'ezras Hashem, they should have an aliyah, and all of the others that we mentioned should have an aliyah, and Be'ezras Hashem. Okay. On your page 3, this is you're now on page 3?
4.
You're page 4. Okay. So we'll just, this is the Bekitzer Derech Avodah series, correct? You have that Bekitzer, yes? Okay. So this is an introduction to this series. This series is made up of a number of texts, and the goal of this series is to put together a set of writings that discuss the whole derech of Avodah in order to hopefully create change and to create shifts within ourselves. And I'm not fully sure how many texts there will be in this series, but most of them are written. There's 2 more to be written. The introduction, which is we're working on now, and as well another kuntrus within the series. So I want to read through this because this is an important. It's important to hear these words, and again, we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes. So Be'ezras Hashem together. This particular text you are reading is part of a text of writings belonging to a series called Bekitzer Derech HaAvodah. Simply, it's an overview of the whole derech. This series provides an introduction to a much larger body of wisdom teachings. The aim is to upgrade our normative living experience with a greater engagement, connection, joy, and love, And this is something really important as well, because ultimately in our normative everyday living, we want to live well. We want to be able to, at the end of our day, when we put our heads down to sleep, to turn and to say, I've had a good day, I've had a fulfilling day. It's been a little bit better than yesterday. Every single day, a little bit better than the day before. That's what we want. Just imagine in your life right now, that you, for the rest of your life, can put your heads down to sleep. And as you put your heads down to sleep, you can look back and you can say that you've had a little bit of a better day than yesterday. Sometimes, unfortunately, it may not happen like that, and that's part of the journey as well. But I can want, I can yearn, I can want, and I can daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, allow it to be. Hashkacha pratis. But that's really something which maybe is foreign to us a little bit, to live with greater enjoyment, in a greater connection, engagement, love. We want that. These wisdom teachings provide important information and a framework to help with wholesome transformation. And again, you will judge. We will talk about it. You will judge. I'm just keeping an eye on the time as well. Okay, let's read through this paragraph, and I think maybe we'll end here today. In today's world, many individuals grapple with stress, anxiety, and traumas that can overwhelm their capacity to cope and live a meaningful life. This pervasive discomfort often leads to poor decision-making, which leads to a lesser decision-making, which lessens our self-worth, preventing us... Sorry, I need my targum.
Which lessens our perceived self-worth.
Which lessens our perceived self-worth, preventing the ability to find joy in even the most beautiful aspects of life. Unfortunately, this discontent can be projected onto Torah and even Hashem, diminishing their perceived values. The current mindset is rooted in what we call, and you'll hear this a lot, an exile mindset. And this exile mindset reinforces these negative cycles and prevents people from experiencing the fullness of life. So I want to stop there for a minute. Again, let's just look at this again. Because again, I had to go through this journey. I'm asking you. In today's world, many individuals grapple with stress, anxiety, and traumas that overwhelm their capacity to cope and live a meaningful life. Do you believe that's true, or is that nonsense?
1,000%.
You believe that is a truth? Yeah? I think that the complication that we experience is that we're living so well. We're living so well. Look at what we have here. It's unbelievable. We've got so much gashmius. We're living so well. We've got so much abundance. We've got so much, so to speak, intelligence. So clever. Such a clever group of people us human beings are. But you look, anybody in the mental health world, mental health challenges are going up, not coming down. So we have to ask ourselves a very big question. Like, what is that? What is that when we have everything? We've got it's unbelievable. And what you will find, unfortunately, the more abundance than we have, unfortunately what we're seeing is this trend all over the world, the more mental health issues occur. Maybe we can just start with one answer, and that is, can we hold the abundance of light that's given to us? Can we hold it? And maybe what we can say is this: there is this dichotomy, there is this tension. The more that I'm given, if I don't have the vessel to hold it, that which is meant to help us hurts us. And what we can suggest is that as we get closer to the year 6000, we're meant to arouse a certain set of tools that enable us to hold the abundance that we have. How does that sound to you? Does that make a little bit of sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
So, next, this pervasive discomfort leads to poor decision making. True? Makes sense? That when we are overwhelmed, when we are stressed, when we're full of anxiety, so what happens is that myself being present is less available. And what is more available is the noise inside my head. And when we're making choices with that noise inside our head, a lot of the time the decision making comes in conjunction with that noise in our head. And that's not helpful to us. That's not helpful. So what we can suggest is the more that we could know who we are and the more that we can quieten the noise in our head, the more that we can learn, again, to be more realigned and centered, maybe, just maybe, the feelings about ourselves, our mindset about ourselves and others will change. And I believe, people speak about achdus. This takes us to self-achdus, self-actualized achdus, but as well, I believe, and again, you will judge it. I'm saying you will believe based on my experience. You end up working better with yourself. You end up working better with other people. You have a better relationship with the world around you, all around. So this poor decision making lessens our perceived self-worth, because if you keep on making bad choices, where is it going to take you? Where's it going to take you? Preventing our ability to find joy in even the most smallest little ditty things. Because what starts to happen, the more you become conscious, the more that you can awaken, the little things make you laugh. There's so much more love and laughter and humor in your life. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. Before a shir was given in the Talmud, they would crack a joke, they would tell a joke, they'll tell over something. So the Vilna Gaon writes that it would put them in a state of das. It would take them out of where they came from, and it would shift their mind. They would have a different, okay. Because in that, when the shoulders drop and the neurology changes, the hormones and chemicals in your body changes, your thinking changes, your mind opens, your heart opens. When we are in a state of fight and flight, we're more constricted. When we're b'kaitza ruach, as we know, kaitza ruach is how the Bnei Yisrael experienced life in Mitzrayim, and there needed to be this transitioning from kaitza ruach to become the Dara Dea, and it's only from that space they could receive the Torah. It's only from that space they could receive the Torah. So we, as we know, the journeying, the transitioning from Egypt to the desert and from the desert to Kabbalah HaTorah is going to be the same as the Medrash tells us in this generation. And we right now, we're shifting. We are hopefully leaving Kaitza Ruach and we're moving into this generation of expandedness in order to receive a new Torah. The difference is it will happen far quicker in our generation. It'll happen, bang! Yeshuas Hashem ke'eref ayin. It'll happen so quickly. And if you're ready for it, you're ready. And if you're not, you'll be ready. The difference is, if you're ready for it now, you enjoy the journey a lot better. And you're far more connected. And it goes on. I'm not going into it now, but you live. Our wanting is that we can experience the journey more with joy and centering. And we go through that transitioning and we're more alive and awakened to Makabel, the light at the end of the tunnel. And what's even more sad is, unfortunately, this discontent can be projected onto Torah and even Hashem, diminishing their perceived value. So I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people who are hurting in their relationship with divine intelligence. So many people are hurting in their relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So many people are hurting in their relationship with Torah. And there's a direct correlation. Biala Rebbe, Zichron Livracha Mamish, he shared this so many times. First, we have to allow people to become healthier. Become healthier, obviously your state will change. You'll become then more joyous and happy in life. And then from there, then we can start real conversations about HaKadosh Baruch Hu and about the Torah. Now, what we find, and this is the magic of it, the natural progression is a natural progression. The more we can center ourselves, and the more we can get to know ourselves and become integrated, we end up with less problems. There's far less of a problem. And as my father always says, what he finds when working with people is that they don't have such an issue with Hashem and the Torah. A lot of the time they have issues with themselves and the people that taught them it. A lot of the time. And many a time, my father finds that when somebody becomes healthier, their relationship with Torah and Hashem improves. And part of this healing process, and I use the term healing very definitively, part of this healing process and this reestablishment of integration of the soul parts, the natural expression of it is that we love better, we live better, we enjoy life, we're far more grounded, we can hold the chaos in a more majestic and graceful manner. And it takes time. It's a journey. It really is. It's a journey, and we can do it. We can do it. And again, this current mindset is what we call an exile, a golus mindset. And it reinforces, the more that we're in this cycle, just reinforces and reinforces and reinforces. And it prevents people from experiencing the fullness of life. So the nakuda is that it could be, we're going to break up and you're going to discuss this for a minute, but it could be that this is something real. I believe that we are speaking more of a common language than a foreign language. But the reality is the answers are there for us. The answers are there for us. Let's just finish today with the vision, and then you'll break up into your, and share for a moment. Share for a few minutes. Vision. Our community. And I write our community again because I'm speaking to the Chaboras. If you want to be part of the process of healing, you're welcome. Our community envisions a world where individuals can lead wholesome, wonderful lives by embracing a geula, a redemption mindset. We aim to transform Klal Yisrael's golus mentality into a geula mindset, empowering individuals, families, and community, our nation, and humanity to recognize their unique divine mission and to live an engaged, holistic lives. So there's a shift from exile to redemption, and it's available for us. It's available for you. It's available for me. And as we said, every single individual, the more one by one we live a centered, more healthy, happier, joyous life, and it's connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we have the understandings and the mechanisms to do that. You can allow your mind to wander on that availability. It's there for us. It's not difficult, it is different. It's a different way of being, and we will speak to that. And we will see what happens again. You are the ones making the call. You are the ones. Don't get me involved. Leave me out of it. I'm just standing here and I'm talking. It's up to you. Again, I'll say that a time and time again because people turn around and think, oh, it's like the tzaddikim, they're so big and this. And obviously I'm big tzaddik, I'm very tall and big. But the point, I'm just sharing what I heard from my teachers. They were big tzaddikim, Baruch Hashem. And they weren't so big like that, no. They were just big. But the point that we're trying to share is that it's not about any of us. We are all shlichim. We are all shlichim. We are all messengers. It's not about you and it's not about me. It's about the us. Through finding the me, I can find the us. So I'm standing out and sharing, but it's not about me. And then you are taking in this information, and if it helps you improve your life, by definition, you're going to be living better, but it's not about you. Your living better is not just your gift. Our living better is what we want. Everybody, humanity. And we'll speak more to that. But Be'ezras Hashem, this is something real, and you'll judge for yourself. If we could spend a minute, please turn to the person next to you. We're finishing at 11, so please turn to the person next to you. Have a 2-minute share. 2-minute share. What have you heard? How is this benefiting you? If it is benefiting you. 3 benefits. And when you walk out today, how do you want your life to look different with what we've shared so far? You've got the booklet in front of you. You can refer to it. Please, bechavod, 2 minutes. So, Baruch Hashem, we started our journey. And we're in our journey.
You're being so rude.
Baruch Hashem. Are there any questions? Just any questions before we close shop for today? Yes. Oh, what a surprise. Yes.
I've kind of been sitting with this. I've been witnessing that it seems, it's not obviously not every story, but hearing a lot of the stories of the hostages who have been released. It seems that there's a really, really strong correlation where they found Kodesh Baruch in one way, shape, or form, and they're being very open about it. And in a lot of cases, massive transformation because they didn't seemingly have much of a real connection to Yiddishkeit beforehand. Would just having this material in mind, is the argument? Would it be fair to say that much of really what was going on, they were having this type of a transformation, whether they realized it or not, just because effectively almost like having no choice. If you're in that situation, either you're going to, suffer and then I don't know what, or you're going to recognize that Hashem is in the world and it's going to hopefully take you somewhere else on the journey. Would the Rav say that's very much connecting with these points?
I believe so. I think you're onto something. That when somebody goes through suffering, they're pushed, so to speak, and they're being pushed and stretched, usually can end up in a choice, either to let go and to end everything, or to live and want to live. And we find for a lot of people, when they go through to rock bottom, they usually find something bigger than themselves. So I believe, to your question, the answer is yes, they went through some sort of transformation, obviously. Pardon?
Maybe we should push people off the edge.
We don't want to be the lechatchila. We don't need to go out and find it, though. But Be'ezras Hashem, the more we heal, hopefully it won't happen anymore. Yes?
I have a question.
Yes.
The Rav mentioned that the more das or the more mindfulness, whatever the words were exactly, the quieter the mind. Is it quieter the mind, or is it the less intrusive it is?
Very good question, thank you. Is it a quieter mind, or is it less intrusive? I think it's a bit of both. It could be less aggressive, less intrusive. Yes, thank you for that. It could be. It could be, yes. There is a possibility of that happening. That's called das. No, okay. Maybe that's part of the challenge. Okay. But yes, thank you for your insight. And thank you. That's a very deep nakuda. So we'll open that up. Anything, one more question before we end? Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if this is, I think it's important, but I don't know if this is the time. It could be a very long discussion. Well, could you speak about relationship with Hashem? Hashem is the creator. Word is creation. Everything in this world is Hashem's creation. He decides in heaven. I mean, could you speak about relationship?
We'll get there. It's a big, and that's what this kuntrus is.
Yeah.
Hopefully that the kuntrus will speak to that.
Okay.
Beseda. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned that how nowadays we have so much abundance, and the question is really if we're able to hold all that abundance. And to me, I look at my life and Baruch Hashem, I have a lot of I have basically all of my needs, and even what comes with that is that I still find myself wanting more or searching for more. So in a practical manner, because I feel like humans, we get very we get used to the things we have, we get very kind of desensitized. So what would you say that looks like in practicality to be a vessel to hold all of the abundance we have?
Wonderful question. So we have tremendous abundance and we get used to things, and when we get used to things we want more. There's a certain greed that can start to take over. And what I would say, the more that we can be balei das, the more that we can be conscious and we can hold what we have, we learn to appreciate. One of the features, the Pashkana Rebbe, Zechron Livracha, he would always say, the more you become a bal das, the more you appreciate. The more you appreciate what you have, and the more you appreciate what you don't have, the more you appreciate what you're going through, the more you appreciate what you're not going through. So the nakuda of das can potentially gift us a vehicle to hold and appreciate. And through that appreciation, hopefully it potentially will lessen the wanting for more in an unhealthy way. Does that speak to your, yeah?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, it actually sounds like, I don't know if it's that we have more abundance, but we have quote unquote good things, but they really are distractions that keep us from experiencing this innate abundance that's possible for us.
It could be, yes. It could be they are distractions, and it could be the fact is we are being invited to know how to hold and wield everything that we have to make the human experience a hopefully glorious experience on this rock floating in space.
So you're saying it depends on how we perceive the stimulus. If we look at it in a positive, healthy way, so then it won't be a distraction,
Correct.
But it'll be a help.
Yeah, if we look at it in a positive way, it will help us, correct. And again, service, altruism. This teaches us to be more altruistic in hopefully a rational way, a humanistically rational way. We'll see what happens. Beseda Chevra, as you walk out today, think for a moment, even for 10 seconds, how can you better your life? How can you better the life of somebody else? How can you better the world around you? How can you be of service? Be'ezras Hashem. L'chaim tovim u'l'shalom, and Be'ezras Hashem will meet next week, and you should have a glorious week ahead. L'chaim, all of us should. God bless. Say that.